Welcome to the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. My name is Megan Skidmore, and I work with LGBTQ plus families of a conservative faith background who feel their world has been turned upside down. I created this podcast with the goal of normalizing asking questions and having doubts, not just in a faith journey, but in all areas of life. I help my clients connect with their inner wisdom and move forward in their journey with confidence, clarity, and compassion. Hey everyone, welcome to the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. I'm Megan Skidmore, your host, and I'm so pleased today to have life coach Jill Pack with me. Jill and I met in Heather Rackham's group, the LDS Life Coach Directory, and Jill agreed to come on and share about her faith journey. If you've been listening for a while, or even just one or two episodes, you know that a major goal that I have in creating this podcast is to normalize that we all have questions and doubts that come up as part of a faith journey. And in fact, in pretty much all areas of life. And that it's okay, that it doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. It doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. And so with that, thank you so much for jumping on with me today and being willing to share, Jill. And I would love for you to take a moment and introduce yourself to our listeners.
I'm so glad to be here. So my name is Jill Pack, and I coach women, primarily women of faith, but also young adults of faith that are navigating a new season of life, and just kind of help them. We all have many seasons, I think, and sometimes that can throw us off. So just kind of help people navigate some of those changes and shifts in their life. Do you want me to just tell about me, like personally now, or what?
Yeah. Tell us your origin story, your background, as much as you want, your family, your faith of origin.
Yeah.
Don't make assumptions.
Yeah. So I was born in Salt Lake, grew up there, born and raised. I was one of three girls with my parents, but my dad was married before, and he had three kids as well. Not a huge part of our life. So most of my experiences with my two sisters, but even saying that, they were all over 8 years older than I. So I had a lot of experiences that I would probably compare to an only child because of that span. But we were a close family. We did things. I grew up LDS, did all the things, and loved my time growing up in my neighborhood, in my church community. I had a great childhood. And then I went on to school. I went to Utah State and moved up to Logan. And that was, I would say, would probably be one of the first part of my faith journey. I moved out and moved with college friends or high school friends. They were my college roommates, and it was really fun. I did find myself, not necessarily, when I say step away from the church, not in the sense that people talk about that now, right? It wasn't that I didn't like it or didn't want it. It just, my focus shifted to fun, right? And just kind of jumping into college life. And so that became less of a focus. It was always there. And I can honestly say I loved it. I loved my faith, but I just kind of set it aside for a time and just got in the thick of things. And then I found myself at the age of 22, unmarried and pregnant. And this was a heavy and dark time for me. I was dating my husband. We're married now, but at the time I was in school. We were going to get married fairly quickly after I found out, but 2 weeks before he backed out. He just couldn't do it. And that kind of rocked my world in a lot of ways. Right. And I thought, okay, I don't know, just navigating all of that. It was a very dark time. We still did things together, worked on that relationship. And about 3 weeks before our son was born, he said, I'm ready. And I was ready. I was waiting for him to kind of figure out, he was a returned missionary. He too had kind of got caught up in college life. And so we made decisions that had brought us to that point. And so we got married, and 2 weeks later we had a baby, and we really haven't looked back since. And not to say it's been perfect by any means, but
Yeah.
I think having gone through that, we were all in. We knew we were both all in. We had kind of navigated that season. And
Do you mind if
so
I interrupt? When you say both
yeah,
all in, do you mean committed to the marriage?
to the marriage. Yeah, we were committed
Okay.
to the marriage. And I would say our faith was similar. Like it was just, we set it aside for a time. We grew up in
Yeah.
similar backgrounds. He was, born and raised Latter-day Saint, but still kind of navigating how to kind of, I think we both in that moment, unspoken, navigated towards the church. It's almost like it's naturally occurred. We lived away for a time in Canada, actually, and we had another baby pretty quickly. And we were a couple years later still in the temple. We've lived a very religious life from that point on, but that experience really has shaped me. For a lot of my 32 years of marriage, I would say half of it, I lived in shame. I lived in a lot of shame, self-doubt. I would say from the outside, people probably didn't know that, right? I felt like I had messed up, and I would revisit that experience often in my mind, and even with my husband sometimes. And I remember one time when it really hit me, like I was viewing this experience as that something had gone wrong in my life, that I had goofed up so bad that I had to work really hard to prove myself. And in a conversation with my husband one day, I remember him saying, "I'm so blessed. I feel so lucky that it worked out the way it did. Because I don't know if I would have, where I'd be right now had that not occurred." So I thought that was the first time when I was like, oh, you can view an experience completely different than another person.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't mind my saying, parts of your
Yeah.
story,
Mhm.
some might say are, quote, outside of the LDS norm, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I don't even like using that phrase. I just use it to define a point. And that is, how did you come to this place where you can feel comfortable? You're sharing it with me, and I'm going to publish this podcast.
Yes.
I'm assuming I'm not the first person that you've shared this with. So
Um,
you had to go through some type of process. I mean, you said yourself, you lived half of your life in shame. That's pretty
Yeah.
significant.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that I haven't told a lot of people, actually.
Okay.
I've
Well,
I've
thank
spoken
you
to it.
for
Yeah.
sharing today.
Yeah. Yes. And I've spoken to it more in the last few years, just because I've been able to, get to a different place. And I think part of that has been, I have adult children now who are choosing their path. And it isn't, I thought that if I did everything right, that they wouldn't have to go through something like I did. But what I've learned from this is, even, my understanding has expanded and opened it. It's like, no, everyone has their, like you mentioned in the beginning, we all have this divinely designed personal experience.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this second half of understanding that we're here to figure it out, whatever that looks like. And nobody's journey is the same.
Yeah.
And so I think having gone through that experience myself, and then navigating my relationship with my adult children as they navigate their faith journey, has just cracked it open even bigger, that it's just really, we're here to not get it perfect. We're
Right.
here to progress.
Yes. You mentioned our conversation before I hit the record button.
Oh, yes.
I do believe very strongly that there are as many faith journeys as there are human beings on this planet, and who have been on this planet or who will be, that it is very much a custom made journey for each of us. And it's a beautiful thing. For me, it's just another manifestation of the divine in each of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the conclusion I've come to. You're talking now, you have adult children,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this concept that we believe in very strongly, a free agency. And so your kids are having their own faith journeys. And I'm not asking you to share what that is, but when they have questions or things that come up for them that maybe aren't meshing or connecting for them, they have some doubts that come up, perhaps. Can you share with us a little bit how you navigate that as their parent?
Yeah, I think that in the beginning, I tried to help them see, give my vision or
Mhm.
my understanding, right? And
When you say in the beginning, you mean when they were younger?
sorry, when raising them, right?
Okay.
I would say that I viewed my role as to, teach them. And then I thought that if I did it a certain way, it would just all work out magically. And
Yeah.
then when I say in the beginning, their faith journey, right? I was resistant to watching them take those steps toward their journey. That was really hard for me. And that's actually when I found coaching, was at that time of my life, was when I was trying, because I really did believe that if they would just believe like me, I could be happy. And that I had done all this stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'd made mistakes. I'd done things and I'd found peace on the other side of that. So I could help them in some way avoid that, which is naive to think, right? Because that's
Mhm.
not how it works. But being resistant to it in the beginning showed me that that doesn't serve anyone. And so as time has passed, I would say they're doing their own thing, and we don't have a lot of like conversations spoken, but there's a way of being that's natural, like normal, natural, relaxed, instead of tight and worried and frustrated and anxious. Right. And so it's like we've settled into a place where we acknowledge where each other is without words, if that makes any sense.
It sounds like there's mutual respect.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand where each other is at, and you have mutual respect for that place.
Yeah. And it's like there's growing pains to get to
Mhm.
that place. And I think that there still will be as new things come. Right.
Yeah.
But I would say that that's exactly what it is we've settled into a mutual respect.
You said something a minute ago. You said, I really believed that if they did things just like me, just the way I did, then I could be happy. And, I think that as parents, we're well intentioned. I don't think you are alone in that approach or in that hope or those thoughts. And what's really striking me about this is you had to come to this realization that it was about their happiness, their journey,
Mm-hmm.
their choices, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm curious to know more about the resistance that you felt. Where do you think that came from, first of all? And can you remember, or maybe
Yeah.
it's still ongoing,
You know what? I
what you
think,
do to let it go or
yeah.
at least reduce it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And this has been such an area of growth for me, especially. I think that where my struggle came in is, like I said, I set faith aside, or not like totally aside, but it wasn't as a priority per se.
Yes.
But I didn't.
And just FYI, there's no
Yeah.
judgment here.
Yeah. No,
Everybody's entitled to have
exactly.
their own
Exactly. Yeah.
faith journey.
Right. And that's where I was at the time, but I picked it up easily. There wasn't, like, I would say I naturally kind of went back to where I was, and I did those things. I love the gospel. I
Mhm.
love so much of it, right? Not that I don't have questions, but just, I really did feel safe in the gospel. And it was a beautiful piece when I brought it back in. And so it was an easy shift in a lot of ways. The shame part that came along with it wasn't easy. But as far as navigating, getting back into religious practices and things like that,
Yeah.
it was normal and natural for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what the resistance where that came in is it's like, it should be just as easy, if that makes sense for them. Like they should just, it just made sense to me. And so to have them, it not come as easy, or that's just not where they were, felt like either I had done something wrong. That's probably primarily what it was, is I believed I had done something wrong. And so then I just was so frustrated all the time as they made their path, right? And I just one day came to this point where, after finding coaching, identifying the emotions that were driving me, and frustration was a big one. That was a primary driver. And I finally decided, like, I don't want to feel frustration all the time.
Yeah.
That doesn't make them want to even hang out with me. Right. Like it was affecting a relationship that I really did want to have with them. One of the tools that I continually use in any kind of situation, not just a faith journey, but I just moved to curiosity, almost reactionary, where I would react with frustration. So when I feel my body move into like, I can't believe they did that. Why would they say that? Why would they do that? I just go, that's interesting. And that phrase alone flips the switch for me. It helps me go, well, what else is going on here? How might they be viewing this? Why am I so upset by this? What's going on for me? Right. It's a verbal cue. Oftentimes, a lot of times it's mental, but oftentimes it just comes out. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And it just helps me. And that has helped me navigate away from the frustration and into more understanding, compassion, love. It allows me to love more openly when I can just get curious and try to see maybe where they're coming from. Not that I'm right, but just it softens the negative that I would go to often.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You shared when you started to integrate participation in the church once again into your life, that it felt natural. You said, and I've been taking notes.
Yeah.
I loved the gospel. Not that I didn't have questions, but there was a beautiful peace once I brought it back into, I think you said, into my life. Would you be comfortable sharing what some of those questions are that you have, which I think is a wonderful concept in and of itself, that you can love the gospel of Jesus Christ and you can have questions. I love the analogy. We have two hands. We can hold different things in each hand that don't have to match up. They don't have to be the same. They can be very much different and it can still be okay.
Right. Yeah.
I'm currently hosting a podcast giveaway. To enter, simply leave a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and upload a screenshot to my Google Doc. Share this giveaway with a friend, and if your friend's name is drawn, you both win a $100 gift card. The link to enter, including to the Google Doc, is in the show notes or in the bio of my Instagram profile.
And one thing I've been able to kind of do is just some things like, do I understand polygamy or the church history that often gets brought up, right? I don't know the answer to a lot of those things.
Yeah.
But I've just been able to set it on a shelf.
Yeah.
Personally, right? Like it hasn't been a stumbling block per se for me. Even like my husband and I were talking about this yesterday, just like the idea of Noah and how some people think that really didn't happen and other people do. And it's just, none of us really know.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, I guess I've been able to set it on a shelf and not worry about it. Not to say that that's the right way to do it, that's just worked
Well,
for me.
again, I'm a very firm believer that each one of our faith journeys is going to look differently. And
Mhm.
part of free agency that we have all been granted means that we get to drive that journey, right? If we can see
Mhm.
ourselves in the driver's seat and holding the reins of it. And so what I hear you saying is, for now, there are things that don't make sense to you. And there's a lot of reasons why we would put something on a shelf, but it is available to us, whoever is in a faith journey, to do just that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
For mental health reasons, spiritual health reasons, for needing to focus on something else, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
And that is a perfectly fine option,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people can do that.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say, and now my mind just went blank, is I like to focus on the fruits, right? That's where I turn my attention, is the fruits.
Mhm,
Does this help me feel closer to God? Does this help me feel good about myself? Does this help me love others and
mhm.
serve others? Right. And so that helps me navigate that stuff I don't really understand, but that I can focus on the things that do feel true to me, feel in line with the person I want to be. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do, is to be who we feel comfortable being and what
Yeah,
feels um
aligned
who
for,
aligned and who we
yeah,
really are, right? That
yeah,
divine part of us, I think.
absolutely, absolutely. That mind, body, soul connection,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
so important. I would love for you to talk a little bit about your experience within your faith community as it pertains to being open,
Hmm.
sharing about questions, sharing about doubts,
Hmm.
just being that authentic self that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Because I think traditionally we have our church persona and our person at home persona. I see that evolving and changing as folks become more willing to just show up authentically and just be their true human selves. But I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your experience, if there are times where maybe you haven't felt comfortable
Hmm.
versus times that you have.
Hmm. Yeah, that causes me to reflect on an experience that I had probably about 20 years ago. We've lived where we live for 28 years. So we have really good friends, and we love it here. And so I think that has helped us feel accepted and able to be ourselves. But I will say that 20 years ago, the culture was different.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember some friends, starting to talk about things at church that felt off and maybe contrary, right? And I remember that in our ward at the time, it was hard because you had those that believed this way and the others that believed this way. And I was on the side of, not the side, but of the belief that they were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this dissidence, and friendships that at one time were really strong were affected. And I remember just feeling like, what's the word? Just, it was a challenge because it was like, I felt like something was happening and I was fighting against it within me. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember that these relationships over time, it took a toll. And I remember it people have left the ward since then, but I remember there came a time when this couple quit coming to church because of how they felt, and probably treated on some level. And I remember sitting in sacrament meeting, and I had this, and at this time, no, she hadn't left yet. She was conducting the music. And I remember sitting there in the sacrament, and I had this overwhelming feeling come over me and say, Jill, you need to apologize. You've got to go say sorry for you,
Mm-hmm.
for the way you, like, it wasn't like it was any one person's fault, right? It was the dynamic of the situation. But for my part in resisting one of God's children, I played a part in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went to her and I cried and I said, I'm sorry for for everything. I'm so sorry for my part in this. I love you so much. And she was very receptive and she apologized. Like it was a beautiful moment where we could be real. Then a few years later, they've moved away and they're doing their things. But it was a lesson to me in we may think we're right, but are we acting as the Savior would? And again, I don't know that I was right. I actually that's not necessarily what I think right now, but I know that I didn't show up my best to allow someone to feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
And so I've reflected on that since finding coaching, right? Like the resistance to someone else's doubts doesn't connect us. It's allowing them to share those is what connects us. And so that's not necessarily my experience as the person that couldn't share a doubt, but I was on the side of a person that was resistant to someone's doubts. And so I've looked back and I've thought, if I could go back, which I know I can't, but the lesson to me was a very vivid one. It's not my place.
Well, and I think it's great that you can't go back because it's part of what carved your path for you.
100%.
And it was a teacher for you, and I'm sure many others in your congregation. For me, this experience illustrates the importance of allowing space in our congregations for folks to express their genuine thoughts, to share their doubts, ask the questions. I believe if we are truly to create Zion, that means folks aren't leaving, right? We're gathering. And that's going to require this shift in our way of thinking, our paradigm of it needs to be you're wrong, I'm right, to tell me about that. Share your experience with me. I want to hear what you have to say without trying to tell them what their experience is.
Yeah, I would say that one of the things that I think leads to a situation that I just talked about is the fear, right? There's fear around, what's going to happen if they start to doubt, or what's going to happen to me? What if I start to doubt, or whatever? Like, this doesn't look like what I thought. And that fear kicks in. And again, that is such a disconnection when we're approaching any situation or relationship from a place of fear. It doesn't allow us to love.
I agree. And that is a huge motivator for me for starting this podcast, to cast a different light on what doubt really is. In episode 12 of this podcast, I talked about the origin of doubt. It can actually be a noun or a verb. As a noun, it's to be uncertain. When you look at it that way, it's like, okay, I'm not certain about something. As a verb, it's to purposely suspend judgment. What's wrong with that? There's just this culture, you're right, that's been created, or this perception that it's a bad thing, when actually leaning into the things that don't make sense to us, that don't sit right with us, that bring up questions for us, is actually a catalyst for growth. And it's actually good for our mental health to acknowledge them versus ignore or resist or deny them.
Yeah. I think growing up, there was this emphasis of, just following the rules, and that there was a certain way that it was to look, for good or bad. But it just, I think it's just taking time to open up our perspectives to that it's going to be messy, and that it's supposed to be a messy, refining, individual journey. And I think that's that felt scary, felt very scary and unknown. And so it made sense that we hung on for dear life. But when we can step into the accepting of the unknown and embracing the messiness of it is actually a beautiful thing. And not scary.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the beginning, you are the coach that helps women of faith in the mid-season of life. I'm imagining that these concepts that we're talking about right now come up frequently with your clients, the unknown, the uncertainty, doubts, what's next, all of that. I'd love for you to speak to that. Share a little bit about that, what
Yes.
that's like for you.
Yeah, I love this because my main focus is to help people that I work with are looking to create greater connection with themselves, with others, and with God to live a more joyful life.
Mhm.
And the first thing I really try to teach them is joy is the messy. That's where true joy is found, is in the hard and the beautiful. Like
Oh, wow.
if we don't have the opposition in all things, which we were told was going to happen, if we can't embrace that part, we're going to miss out on the beautiful. We really will. It's that contrast of life that adds
Yeah.
the richness to it. And so the
So
first
true.
thing I teach them is like, let's understand what joy really is. It's not that everything's perfect, it's that it's actually messy, and that's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that.
Yeah.
Joy is the messy.
It's the
Wow.
messy.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And then we kind of work on those relationships. And I would say women of faith in the mid-season of life are navigating those seasons when their children are choosing differently. They're also rediscovering who they are, right? We sacrifice, I guess,
Mhm.
in so many ways to be parents. And then one day we're not needed the same.
Yeah.
And that
Mhm.
can rock a lot of people's worlds.
Yeah.
And so it's navigating that and then just learning how to really love yourself. So many women don't love themselves. And it's any wonder that our relationships struggle if
Yeah.
we can't have that relationship with ourselves.
Yeah. That is definitely one thing I have learned as a coach. It starts with all the relationships start with self-love.
Yes.
It starts with that mind, body, soul connection, that alignment.
Yeah.
That's where your power lies.
Yeah.
That is just so lovely.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times we feel like I think I did is we worry that we're going to be prideful or conceited or selfish because that's the opposite of what we're taught, right? Like we should be charitable and loving and they're all great, but I think we misinterpret that to be
Yeah.
self-sacrificing.
Right. And I think the realization of that misinterpretation or misunderstanding all originated with somebody asking a question or somebody, having a doubt come up and then a snowball effect of, wait a
Mhm.
minute, that's not really what's going on for me. Wait, this doesn't align. And
Yeah.
just diving into it and learning for themselves, which
Yeah.
is, there's so much value in the process too. It's not just about, it's actually primarily not about the end goal. It's about the journey. It's about the learning. It's about the growth, the progress.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Because why are we here? If the goal was to get back to God, our heavenly parents, we were already there. There would be no need to come here because we were there. So there's something that happens here that makes there better, even better, because we've experienced here.
Mm, yeah.
Right. And so many times we
Mhm.
think like I've got to do it perfectly to get there. And it's like, I don't think
Mm,
so. He
yeah.
created this plan
To
in such
learn.
a way
Yeah.
that changed our very natures.
That's great insight.
Yeah.
I really like that. Thank you so much, Jill. There's one last question I like
Yes.
to ask all of my guests, and that is, what does it mean to you to live beyond the shadow of doubt?
Yeah, I was thinking about this when I saw that you were going to ask that. And the thing that came to me was living outside of my shadow of doubt. Like so many of us question ourselves, we doubt ourselves.
Oh, wow.
And God doesn't doubt us. God knows we're up for, our heavenly parents know we are up for this, or they wouldn't have sent us here. And so to me, that's what came right away is like, it is about being perfect. It isn't about getting it all right. It's just don't doubt yourself because God does not doubt you. And what can you do? What good can you put into the world? Like this podcast, right? If you had
Mhm.
doubted yourself, this wouldn't even be a thing,
Mhm.
right? And so if we can step out of our shadow of doubt, there's nothing we can't do.
So that's so good.
Yeah.
And I did doubt myself. It took me a little over a year to get it finally
Yeah. And we all
going and
do,
published. Yeah.
right? That's the other thing. It's
And
like,
that's okay.
not doing it wrong if you doubt yourself, but guess what else is possible?
Exactly.
There's something else that you could tap into when you're ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So amazing. I loved your response. Wow. I
Yeah.
love hearing these responses from each of my guests. They bring so much insight for me.
Yeah.
So I have a few for funsies questions that I throw
Okay.
out that I didn't tell you about. It just lets us get
Okay.
to know you a little bit better. Just
Yeah.
1 or 2 word answers is all.
I love it.
What is your favorite book?
Oh man. Okay. So I would say my favorite book is The Help.
It is a good
I
one. So
love that
many
book.
principles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love the movie because it
Mhm.
fits the book. Like they're so close, but I have tons of books, but that's one of my favorites.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I would say I am probably an extrovert with a little introvert. I
can
think I'm
see
a
that.
hybrid, but I would say
You're a
extrovert
hybrid.
predominantly.
That's fabulous. You're a hybrid. I love it. Who is your favorite artist?
Like painter or music
pick.
or oh geez, that's a tough one. I don't know.
That's okay. You love all art.
I love all. It's so funny you say that because my husband has decided he's an art collector. And so we have an art wall. And so he's really getting into art.
Mhm.
And I have some friends that are artists that paint for the church and other things anyway. And so I have a lot of their art. So
You're
anyway,
a connoisseur of art.
I guess you could say.
Love it. Are you a night owl or a morning lark?
I would say I'm probably a night owl, but I want to be a morning lark.
Yes, I feel that. Do you do still or carbonated water, or do you do diet soda?
I just do water. I
For you.
lemon, and then I have gotten into carbonated, but water with a lemon is my drink of choice.
Okay. And what about a celebrity crush? Do you have a celebrity crush?
Celebrity crush. That's a hard one too. I would love to meet Brene Brown or Mel Robbins.
Oh, me too.
And like have a one-on-one just with them.
That would be amazing.
That would be
Agreed.
pretty cool.
What about the furthest place you've traveled?
Furthest place I've been to Aruba.
Oh, yeah,
That might be the farthest. I have been to Europe, but I don't know which is farther.
Yeah, I don't know from Texas. Oh, sorry, you're in Utah. I'm in
I mean,
Texas. Maybe equally far.
well, yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell our listeners how they can connect with you, where to find
Okay.
you, and if you have any special offers for them.
Awesome. Okay. You can find me at seasons-coaching.com. You can learn more about me there. I have a podcast too, it's called Seasons of Joy. And I have a Facebook group called the Seasons of Joy Community, where I go a couple of times a month just to teach people tools. And then I have my one-on-one coaching program called the Season of Creation, because we're all creators.
We'll make sure and leave all that in the show notes for everyone to
Yes.
find. I appreciate your time so much today, Jill. Thank you for joining me.
It has been a pleasure, Megan. Thank you so much.
Come join me in Hopeful Spaces, a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, which is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. Hopeful Spaces is a monthly parent, caregiver, and ally support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. To join is free. Simply send an email to chc@dallashopecharities.org. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com, where you can find this podcast, as well as additional free resources. Check the podcast show notes on any platform for links to sources cited. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more and to send me a DM. To help the podcast grow, please follow, rate, and review, as well as share it with a friend. Beyond the Shadow of Doubt is a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, which is a part of the Dialogue Journal found at dialoguejournal.com/podcast network. Founder Eugene England was a Mormon writer, teacher, and scholar who wrote, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue. My hope is that this podcast is an extension of that vision. Thanks for being here. Until next time.